Hello, hello. Welcome to the Cultural Coins. This is Eugene. I'm so excited to have, we have a great guest, couple of guests, and our topic for today is the future is female. For some of y'all that have just tuned into CHIP, we are changing how individuals prosper. Our goal is to have as many individuals get access to financial services. May that be estate planning, tax series, financial literacy, all that and in between. I'm going to have the guests introduce themselves, and then we'll get into the topic. All right, Jessica, you want to go first?
Sure. Hi, I'm Jessica Henderson. I am a CPA and financial planner with South Bay Financial Partners, and I'm excited to be here with you today.
Hello, I'm Shahara Wooten, and I'm a certified financial planner professional, engineer turned financial planner. So I focus on STEM professionals and helping them achieve the life that they've imagined. Thanks for having me.
Greetings and great day, beautiful people. Dr. Dominique Reese here. I'm the CEO of Reese Financial Services, where I'm the Chief Financial Coach and Planner, and looking forward to participating in today's discussion.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Chioma Deer. I am an attorney in West Palm Beach, Florida, with SSRGA. I focus on estate planning, wills and trust, asset protection, elder law, and probate. My goal is to empower generations to protect their wealth and legacy in a digital world.
Excellent. So the way this cultural coins conversation works is very free flowing. We call it the view. So we can get it started and anyone can go. One big thing that we are asking since it's Women's History Month is what are some financial tips for women in this economy? Do you have any tips or tricks?
Of course. I guess I'll go first. Again, Dr. Dominique here. So in the practice that I run, I tend to work with women leader professionals and entrepreneurs who are serving in their divine purpose, but have money problems to solve. Also notice, I specialize in their financial foundation. And what that really means is helping my clients to build a foundation upon which they can then grow assets and continue to create wealth through those assets. But what I'm finding is that even my high income earner clients, which you don't have to be a high income earner to employ these tips, because the majority of my clients tend to have modest income. So if you've got income anywhere from, let's say, 50,000 to 150,000, which is really the sweet spot for me, I'm finding that a lot of clients are struggling to save. And we're talking just regular savings. It's not about retirement even just yet. It's still emergency fund for some women, and putting money away for some goal specific savings that they might have. So I like to say, when you're living paycheck to paycheck, or at least you feel like you're living paycheck to paycheck, one of the things that you could do is a 30-day look back. And a 30-day look back is a proprietary tool I've developed, but it's actually, you could do it on your own. You just print your bank statements and you look at every single transaction that has come in, every single transaction that has come out for the last 30 days. And this is really a face the music moment. So this is where you know exactly where every single penny has gone. It's almost like a forensic accounting for yourself. You identify every single penny and where it has gone. But what's powerful about this moment is that money's behavioral. So if you did it last month, you're likely to do it next month, unless there's some intervention or some awareness. So this exercise creates that awareness. It gives you an opportunity to say, do I want my money to go there again? And if not, here's my opportunity to say, I'm going to redirect it. So when you see your money and you see where it's going, you add up the categories and you're like, I spent $600 on dining out and I spent $400 on groceries. That's $1,000 on food that you've literally eaten away. If you don't want to do that again, you ask, well, Is this a behavior I want to start, stop, change, or continue? And if you do that for each and every category, now you set yourself up to really create a solid budget that isn't just based on numbers that are pulled out the sky, but they're actually based on your behavior. They're based on data. They're based on things that you can actually change for the next 30 days. So that is a tip that I think anybody in any income bracket could benefit from, especially if you find your savings are low, you want to catch up, or you feel like you're living paycheck to paycheck. That exercise alone can cure all of those feelings.
I think that's great, Dr. Dominique. I mean, I recently put out a video about watching for those sneaky leaks. And what you just mentioned reminds me of that, like the triggers. Are we door dashing it? Maybe we could have meal planned, and those things really add up. I mean, then we realize maybe a month later that those leaks could have been stopped, and so along those similar lines, I'm also thinking about, are you subscribe to any newsletters, or I always get these text messages from various stores that are like, FOMO alert, you need to go ahead and take this and buy this and buy 10 and get 5 free. And people find excuses to spend. And I think it's time to find excuses to save, reasons to save, especially in these type of times, and if you don't have an emergency fund, especially. But even having just more liquidity beyond an emergency fund for home repairs that might come up, just making sure you have stuff for that. Or if you want to take that trip down the line, being intentional about that too. So those are some things that, that I've been noticing as well. And then to add to all of that, I've been really talking to a lot of folks who just feel like they're starting late. I even talked to a 20-something-year-old that felt like she was starting late, but 30s, 40s, 50s, women that feel like it's too late and, what should I do? And I just think a lot of it can stem from just, let's get our mindset right. A lot of folks start late and you're not the only one. And it's important to understand that if you focus and you redeem the time, use our time wisely and start to look at those leaks, look at your goals, look at other avenues to save instead of feeling like, woe is me, I'm never going to be able to save or catch up. And so I've just been seeing a lot of that lately where people just feel like, what do I do, since I started late?
Yeah, and I love what you guys are saying about being intentional and setting goals. I really do believe that having goals for your money, so thinking about your life intentions, your values, telling your dollars where to go instead of letting them tell you where they're going, and just having that mindfulness and having the habit of paying attention that you guys mentioned. I think that that's really important too. I think it has to do with just setting some time aside, thinking about what do I value. A lot of people think they have this idea of should. They have an external idea of what they should be doing with their money. Maybe they live in an affluent neighborhood and they have this pressure to keep up with the Joneses, spend money on things that might be outside of their reach. And so one thing I like to encourage people is to think about what are the shoulds in your life, and do those really align with your values? Like, think about what are your values, what are your goals? Is keeping up with the Joneses as important as maybe some other what do I value? What do I really want my life to look like? And are my finances supporting those life intentions?
That's good.
I hear a lot. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. I hear a lot of all of the things that you three ladies have talked about before when clients come and sit down and talk to me. Now,
Mhm.
the conversation that they have with me is probably the same kind of personal, vulnerable conversations that they have with you, but mine are inextricably tied with death. So often I try to infuse laughter into this whole thing because, yes, this is very, very serious stuff. It's very important stuff. We're talking about money, we're talking about what can happen and how to protect yourself and protect your family. But I'm also talking to clients, and more often than not, women bringing in their spouses, or women who are caregivers, or women who are that child that they know will be in charge when somebody gets sick, when somebody dies, and has to then navigate everything plus their own life. And so I find that everything that you all have said so far is actually really, really key to what I usually talk about, which is not just death, but actually how to protect your life, how to protect your family, how to leave a lasting legacy, but also how to be sure that you're taking care of yourself as well. I tell people that estate planning, writing things down, putting the right documents in place, which I know all of you talk about when you're talking about these things, because it's so important. But estate planning is self-care too. It's, giving yourself that peace of mind that, not on the exact same level, but that an emergency fund can give. Just making sure that you have those documents in place that will protect the assets that you're working, the money that you're working so hard to put together. If you get sick, and after you die, what will happen? So I hear the same things. I hear, am I too late? I hear some apologies sometimes where it's not a lot of money. But I also hear a lot of what I should be doing, who should be in charge, and walking through all of those interpersonal, and also giving advice about how to decide who will be your trustee, how to decide who will be your power of attorney and your healthcare surrogate and people like that. All of that is tied to the money that you have, because if you make decisions that turn out to be the wrong ones, the money that you have while you're alive, and if you become sick, could just go down the drain. So it's really about making sure that you're putting your life together in a way that will allow your loved ones to easily take care of you, but also easily take care of what you're leaving behind, with clear directions from you, and not being forced to go to court and have the court tell your family what to do. So,
Yeah.
everything is tied together. All of what we're saying is tied together.
It
There,
really is.
we left put a question in the chat for us to answer, I think.
Yeah. I was just going to respond back to what you said too before we do that. But I mean, just having an idea of what does legacy mean. I've had some people tell me they're just like, I'm just focused on what I got going on right now. So I'm not even thinking that far ahead. But, it's important to, have something in place should the worst happen, and just making sure that you're creating the best scenario.
That's
I
what I
agree.
tell people a lot. Like, it's not about death. It literally is about living. It's
Yeah.
what would happen to your bank account, your light bill, the
Mm-hmm.
person that you're taking care of, the minor or the elderly person that you're taking care of.
Right.
What would happen, and how would it affect the money, the retirement funds, the savings that you've built up? It's not one of those things that I don't put it out there in terms of you should be a nervous wreck every time you lay down because you have nothing in
Right.
place.
Yeah,
It
absolutely.
really is about, putting things together, but also communicating,
Yeah.
communicating with your family, like you said, what that legacy would be, what you want to happen. Do people know that you have an allergy?
Mm.
Like, those kind of things.
Right.
Just making sure that you have those legal documents in place that will help you should anything happen while you're alive. I think that's the first step always.
I love that you're here, Chioma, because I do, for me, education is big in the work I do because I work with so many, as I like to say, next generation wealth builders. But the women tend to be caretakers, breadwinners, and the wealth builder. And the myth, I would say, is that estate planning is for when you hit a certain level.
Right.
And for me,
Right.
it's educating about, and this was, I'm about to finish up my CFP. So Shahara, I'll be joining soon.
Yeah.
But I absolutely loved my estate planning course because it affirmed everything I already knew, which was that estate planning is for everybody. It doesn't matter if you think you have something, or have enough. It is for you. And it's all about the effective transfer of your assets to the right people at the right time. And we know in our culture, so many times people end up with stuff we didn't want them to end up with. Families
That's right.
start fighting over X, Y, and Z. So it's one of those things where you know what's up. You know what could happen. And if you don't want that burden on your family, you have to do that now. And then for me too, at one point I was a single mom. And I'm like, if I die today, what is going to happen to Yair? Who is going to take care of my baby? Like from a very practical perspective, who's going to take him to school? Who's going to get who is that person? My family would have to figure that out. And Lord knows there are certain people I don't want raising him.
Yes.
So I have to get this in order. And the urgency came from the practicality of thinking about what's going to happen, not the woe is me, or I don't want to think about that, or death
Right.
is too much to think about. Like, nah, y'all, we got to get real practical. And then on the other side, I love too that you're like, these are just legal documents. They're just documents, but they do start with conversation and communication. What if you're in some kind of a accident and you're not dead, but you can't talk? You're
Right.
just incapacitated. Who's going to pay your bills? Who's going to
That's
just
true.
make sure the practical things happen?
That's right.
And that's what these documents do for us. So
Yeah.
stop thinking it's for when you hit a certain level. No, you're at that level now. You have every single need that qualifies you for estate planning right now.
Absolutely. And the other thing is just even the beneficiaries on savings accounts and checking accounts, like just making sure that you're adding, transfer on death, payable on death. And that doesn't even take a long time. You could do that today. You can do that during this while you're watching this. Log in right now and check your beneficiaries. Just something as basic as that, updating that, making sure that's okay. And then in the meantime, while you're doing that, then, make sure you're getting that will and trust and all those things that Chioma is talking about to get that done. But make sure those beneficiaries are up to date.
I have a couple more anecdotes that I'll bring up as we talk later, but it can get as complicated as you'd like it to be if you have a complex estate, or it could be very simple. And so I try to make sure everyone realizes that in the same way that although there's some basic steps that you do have to take when you're talking about money and life, the same with estate planning and what you want to have happen with your life. I think Eugenie put a message in here. She said, "What financial steps should I take before having children?" All right, so y'all can just check me off the list because you also need to do all of the things that I just said. So yes, you don't have to have children or to have your estate planning in place. Those are still really important. In fact, even more important when you don't have children, because what people would consider you should be doing is not necessarily something that's coming into play. So I'd love to hear what everybody else has to say about that.
Yeah, so I would say one of the things that you want to look at before having children is just making sure you have a plan in place and knowing your inflows and outflows, and looking at how those will change when you have children. One thing that a lot of people don't really think about is the added costs and how significant those are once you start to have children. We recently had a client who purchased a new home and had a child shortly after, and they didn't realize, at the time, the magnitude of how that would impact their financial situation. And so just having that planning ahead of time and just thinking things out prior to the choice to have children, I think can be really helpful. So just being mindful and cognizant of what needs to be in place once the child comes.
Yeah.
I would say, and someone mentioned this in terms of goal setting. I think it was you, Jessica, like having a plan, having goals. We get really numb to goal setting. Like I don't ever see enough financial goal setting when I meet with my clients. And what I find and what I have said philosophically about money is that money management is time management, is calendar management. So when you think about having children, yes, there are some financial implications, but the first one is your time and your energy. And when you have less time, you are likely not going to manage as well. So for me, it's set goals that you are quite serious about in terms of they're important to you. They matter. They have some kind of meaning that you would truly like to achieve before you introduce children into your life, because it is likely that the introduction of your children may jeopardize those goals, which again, if money management is time management, is calendar management, it just makes it more expensive to do after the fact. So it's, for me, the question of what steps to take is really about the goals you have for your life. If there's places you want to travel, if there are certain milestones you want to hit in your career, if there are certain amounts of money you do want to save, like these are all relevant, legit goals that you can set, and they have financial implications. They may not just be money focused, but the financial implication is that they'll cost money. You want to go ahead and start being a bit more intentional about what that actually looks like and what it's going to take for you to achieve that goal, because the introduction of children to your expansion could very well jeopardize that goal. Doesn't mean it can't happen. It just might delay it, or it may cost more. And so if you're not prepared for that, then it can become more of a management thing to meet that new need, meet that new cost, or meet the new time. When do you have time? So that would be that's what I would proffer and offer in terms of answering that question.
I love that. I think that's really great. Like people, setting goals and being intentional about it before having children, I think is really important. And I think also a key word is protection. So just making sure that you have in place systems to protect your wealth, to protect your income, to protect your wishes before the child comes, because that can be a really busy time, and that may not be the first priority to implement at once the child is here, but getting that into place prior to the child comes. And when I say protection, some of the things that I refer to are disability insurance. So just making sure that either through your job or if you have to purchase a separate policy, just making sure that you have some way to replace your income in the event anything were to happen to you, because you really never want to get into a situation where you have a new child and then something happens and you don't have an income to cover these new expenses. And I'd also say life insurance, just making sure that if anything were to happen to you, that your family is going to be taken care of.
Yeah, those are great points. And I was thinking what you guys are saying, it made me think about my framework and how I did a remix on the SMART goals, and I called it Smarty Possibilities. And so it's all the things that come with having SMART goals, But then I replaced possibilities or goals with possibilities, and having people to really dream. So taking that time to think about, like, what does life look like for you? What do you want to accomplish? If you were to look here the next 90 days, what is it that when you look back, are you celebrating? But even looking forward, even farther ahead, if you can, to your 75-year-old self, your 80-year-old self, and what are the things that I would have wanted to have my children experience, or my grandchildren? What do I see happening? Am I on a big plot of land and we're all vacationing there and doing these types of things? So like experiencing, really looking at the possibilities, because I think some people have a hard time figuring out what the goals should be. But if they just expand out and dream about what are the possibilities, and then start to see, okay, what can I actually do out of this list or this narrative that I'm writing and creating, and then pull those out, and then take that SMART part of it, making sure it's specific, it's measurable, it's attainable, it's realistic, it has a date to it, it's time bound. And then the why part of Smarty is your why. So really getting down to, why am I doing this? Why is this important to me? And that's your foundation before you even take financial steps that's necessary to have children. Just, what is that foundational why that you have? And so I love for people to go through the 5 whys as well. So asking themselves why 5 times. I got that from The Gap and the Gain. I don't know if you guys read that book. But that's an amazing book. But really asking yourself why 5 times. And then once you get to that, by the time you get to that 5th why, you should really know what the why is. But if you don't, keep asking. But it's just a great exercise to go through the Smarty possibilities and just really dream, and then start to flesh out what's realistic and filter it through that.
I agree.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. And I do like the idea also of thinking of money as not the end in itself, but as a means to an end. So when you're coming up with all those SMART goals, like that's the thing. Like, you want to enjoy your life, you want to meet your goals. It's not about just making money. It's about using the money to achieve those goals.
Yes. And we always say money is a tool. What you said right there, that's a prime example. It's a tool to help us get to where we want to go.
I think too, what I appreciate in what you're saying, Shahara, is that, like, it's 2 perspectives. On the consumer side, I'll start on the professional side. On the professional side, we're trained to gather data from our clients and understand their goals and their objectives. And it's an exercise. It's a data gathering exercise. But what I've realized too, in my understanding of the successful advisors and planners and financial professionals that I may admire, is they spend a lot of time there. They spend a lot of time understanding their clients' values, their clients' goals, and kind of fleshing that out in a way where it almost annoys the client a little bit because they're spending so much time there. But it also, for me, became a realization on the consumer side, people aren't spending time there.
Yeah.
Like, we're in such a go, make the money, like Jessica's saying, like, just I'm in the flow of life be lifing. But
right.
If we're not dreaming, people aren't thinking deeply about life design. It's more like, well, I would like to, or if I could, or maybe one day. All of this very low frequency language around how their money could create for them. And so what I've begun to do is spend more time, almost to the point where I might annoy my client, around the why. What's the motivation for that? What does that look like? when you hit them with what does that look like, it's like, oh, well, I don't know. I've never been asked that question before,
Yes.
you know? And so that, again, it goes to show that our training around money management on the consumer side, we've got to start helping our clients understand there is value in taking time to think about what you want your life to look like. And it could look any kind of way you want it. And this money that we talking about is the way in which this is going to happen. This money is going to help birth these ideas. So the time we're taking here is not busy work. It's not because I don't know the next step to take with you. I very well know the next step to take, but I need you to get very clear. And I find this a lot with retirement clients who are focused on retirement, or to our point, like they feel behind. You feel behind, but you don't even know what you want it to look like. And then when I tell you to take the time and come back, here's your task. Tell me in our next meeting, what does this look like? It's not very fleshed out.
Yeah.
It's just retire by this age, have this amount, and then kind of be able to do what I want to do. Okay, that's a good starting place. But we got to flesh this out some more, because this could look a lot more defined, and we can calculate how much this is going to cost. So if I'm going to do a good job for you, let me understand exactly what you want to do in the next 25 years of your life, because this money could make it happen. But we need to know how much it's going to cost. So I really like that idea of your, like, by the fifth why, we should know what's up.
Absolutely. No, it makes so much sense. So much sense. We got to take the time to do it. And, and just real quick, I work with a lot of STEM professionals. So they're thinking analytically. I just came here for you to tell me what the numbers are. So it does throw them off a little bit. So.
I love when I get those engineers too. Like they pepper you with questions, but when you turn it back on them, it's like, I don't know. I don't understand. I thought we were doing 1, 2, 3, and 4 with all this woo-woo stuff from this financial person. So I definitely get it. I guess just to tie everything together, knowing, who I am and what my role is that I do the same thing. In my practice, although we know what some of the things that we're thinking about and what the likely end goal might be, I still am walking through, well, who are your people? If you're looking around and you are planning for children, or you are considering marriage, please consider a prenup. But also if you are considering marriage or any other life changes, having those deep thoughts about what you want and what it looks like, and considering who else could be affected by the decisions that you're making. Not to say you can't do it if someone is affected by the decisions that you're making, but to consider that as well, which is why some of these legal documents come into play. And to be very clear, because I love that Jessica gave us specific things: disability, life. I would throw in long-term care insurance in the disability or life somewhere, because I know a lot of these policies have those types of extra things. I would also want you all to consider whatever state you're in, because I'm in Florida. It's some type of healthcare surrogate document, something like that, where someone can get healthcare information and make healthcare decisions for you. And it has to be someone that you trust to do that. And it doesn't have to be your spouse. It doesn't have to be your mother. It doesn't have to be your father or any of your siblings. It can be someone who you trust. Same for a power of attorney, which is mostly along the financial documents and financial money stuff, where they can go do as much as open a bank account for you, take out a loan for you, sell a house for you. But all of those things still tie into practical things that we're talking about too. So it can be as small as that. Definitely consider a living will, which is what someone wants to have happen when they're in the act of dying. Like, so there's nothing else to be done. They're dying. This is what I want to have happen. And for some people who have religious and spiritual views, this is a very important document because it allows the clinicians and the medical people to do what they want during that time, which is very important for a lot of people and their families. And then finally, have a will in place. A will take you to court, but a will tell the judge who gets what and who's in charge of it. So it helps, and who will be the guardian of your minors. So it helps everyone to know exactly who's on first and what's going to happen. A trust, both while you're alive and after you die, protects your assets by keeping everything in there. You have to fund the trust first before it can be really effective. But it picks the people that you want to be in charge if you become incapacitated while you're alive. And it picks the people who you want to be in charge after you're gone. A trust can do a lot of different things. And I talk about a revocable living trust as well as irrevocable trust as to protect your assets. But those types of things in terms of a trust will protect people from having to go to probate. If someone dies and there's only a will, you have to go to probate. If there's no will, you have to go to probate court. That means you have to hire a lawyer more often than not and go to court, and it's public, it's expensive, and it takes a long time out of your life. But also, if you're leaving minors behind and you're leaving more above a certain amount of money to them, those people have to go to court for the minors too. And if you are alive and you become incapacitated and there are no documents in place and someone needs to make life decisions for you, they have to go to court for you too. So it really does, help you to avoid a lot of family stress and drama and cut down on the unnecessary, unpleasant, and negative grief that people might have after your death if you put everything together, and take care of those types of things. So certainly keep all of those things in mind, and thinking deeply about what you want will definitely help to clarify how you want even your legal documents to be put in place, and who are those trusted people that you want to be in place to help you in and your family in times of need. So I know we're running out of time, so I just want us lawyers can talk. So I didn't want to start going down it, but if anybody in the chat has any questions that they want to ask me, I'd love to talk, say, if there was anything else that you wanted to know in terms of, how we help these, the women, help women in this changing economy. The one very important tidbit that I can say before I move on is women are the wealth builders at this point. And if you think about the baby boomer generations and all the other generations, the women are the ones that usually are leading in terms of the money that is coming into the economy, especially because men statistically die before the women do. So there are a lot of retired women with a lot of wealth that really need to do something with it and make sure that it's being properly protected while they're alive and after they're gone. But I love to encourage my clients who are retired, whose husband or whose spouse has died, and is only thinking about, let me just not spend this money so I can leave it for my children. And I'm the first one to say, live your life.
Yeah,
Like you've worked so hard, or built a life, and yes, you want to leave something for the next generation or your children, but take care of yourself as well. And there are a lot of different ways to do it. And everyone that I've said something on the presentation today is really just pointing to that. It's about that peace of mind and taking care of yourself and getting what you want, and building a life that you want.
Yeah, overall, I mean, what you're saying and what we're all saying, this is a part of self-care. This is a part of taking those steps to, help yourself and to help, to help yourself so that you can help others, because a lot of times that's all we're thinking about are the others, especially as women. But we do have to take the time and give ourselves permission to help ourselves. I mean, I was just talking with a lady yesterday who was just like, I'm not sure. I'm about to enter the workforce. So this is a woman who's getting out of grad school and she's about to enter the workforce. And she's like, how much should I negotiate? What should I do? Should I negotiate at all? Because some people are just like, their parents are saying, this is a great income. You shouldn't negotiate, or just take it. And it was really neat listening to her and talking to her about, no, negotiate your worth, because a lot of Black women in STEM that I've interviewed, many of their biggest frustration, one of their biggest frustrations is that they feel lowballed in terms of salary. So now, we've already got a wealth gap, a wage gap, and I'm bringing up a whole different topic, but it's something I wanted to just kind of say in regards to, you're feeling behind, you're feeling like possibly that you didn't ask for enough, or you're behind in salary, you're behind in starting, but all those things just to let you know that it's okay. It's okay to recognize that. And now it's time to make changes and get started and take, what we're sharing and take, just massive action right now. And then if you are just starting, negotiate, ask for more, those types of things. But, get those disciplines in place as quickly as you can.
Jessica?
This, I really encourage that idea for people to not just do what people think they should be doing, but really live out your life intention. Not being selfish and not considering other people. Don't take it to an extreme, but living out your life intention and what is important to you. I think is really good to not always listen to others' expectations of what you should be doing. And I guess one final thought that I had is there's a lot of chaos and turmoil in the world right now, and a lot of people are very nervous. And one thing that I think really helps with that is just, like we've said, I don't mean to be redundant, but like knowing your values, knowing your goals, and building that into a plan. So you can build a financial plan, but starting with, what do you want your life to look like? What are your goals? How can your finances support that? And once you have that plan in place, focusing on sticking to that plan. So like a lot of people, when they see all that's going on in the world, they get nervous and they might want to, abandon that plan. But if you just stick to it, I think that can be really grounding, and that can really bring you some peace of mind. So just mapping out a plan, and we're all professionals here. If you ever, get stuck and need help, don't know where to start, you can always reach out to one of us, reach out to a financial planner, reach out to an attorney, reach out to an accountant. We're here to help and support you in getting that plan started and getting that solid grounding.